It's refreshment time, folks.
I have to return some videotapes.
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Do you like scary movies, Sydney?
You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. Don't need a TV.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Over 1,600 titles, each for rent at just $2 the first night, and only...
Finish it.
I don't watch TV.
Yeah, but you are aware that there's an invention called television, and on this invention they show shows, right?
Tonight on 6 Ed World.
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and Weather Channel.
Welcome to the Frog Brothers Podcast with your hosts, Justin and Alec.
We're recording now.
Or are we already recording?
Yes, I got some little roofs in there.
That's amazing. I'll fetch with my eyes closed. Hello, and welcome to episode 40-2 of the Frog Brothers Podcast.
That's pretty, that's a lot. Getting up there.
Yeah, I know, we're getting up there. Pretty soon we'll be close to Nick's mom's age if we keep it up at this rate.
We're getting into our Clooney years.
Yeah, getting salt and peppery.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper.
So, what's been going on this week?
Yeah,
I'm pretty stoned.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I could tell you're like your energy level is like really mellow. Super mellow, man. Like he's real laid back.
Let me look at my notes here.
So notes like
What do we got in the news? Well, I'll tell you what I got. I found the Hasbro Lightning Collection Green Ranger action figure the other day, and I purchased it, and I brought it home with me.
Very nice. How much?
It was $24 because I bought it at the local vintage stock as opposed to somewhere else, which I haven't seen it in any stores anywhere else. So
yeah, sometimes it's worth just paying a few dollars extra now than trying to deal with eBay prices or finding one that's fucked up at Walmart.
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
That vintage stock takes care of me. I bought that, and they also sold me a Seizure action figure in box that I plan to open up this month for $1.99.
Shadows of the Empire.
Which one? The one down here?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have it the other day?
They did. I went back and bought it when I bought that Green Ranger. Because they didn't have a price tag on it last time. But I brought it up and was like, I want this. And they're like, $1.99? I was like, yeah, sure. Sold to the man that is me.
Yeah, the only thing I bought new for toys, I bought a Hot Wheels Top Gun F-14 Tomcat, which is not to be mistaken for any of the toys out of the Matchbox line, even though they have the same parent company, which is a little deceptive, but, you know.
It is what it is. I did buy the RC car for Jurassic Park, the Jeep Wrangler, officially licensed.
It's pretty cool. Alec was zipping it around the living room here earlier. It's actually looks pretty good. It's in scale with the...
around the 3 1/4. I mean, it's not probably in perfect scale or anything, but
it's close enough that it'd look good for photos, or if you wanted to chop a figure in half, Sid style from Toy Story, you could probably put a Lieutenant Dan version of any of the characters in there.
Yeah.
And Lieutenant Dan, I mean, legless.
How was your RC DeLorean?
It's okay.
Yeah, that RC DeLorean's pretty cool too. It's pretty tiny, but it zips around.
It coincidentally, for the price and size, it was $5 more than the Jurassic Park one. Isn't that ridiculous? NECA made the Back to the Future one, and the Jurassic Park one is made by Jada, and it's a Target exclusive.
Yeah, NECA is probably just the upscale for NECA doing a smaller volume than what you're going to see out of that.
Yeah, I have not seen... It seems like each Target's only getting 2 of those Jeeps, from what I'm seeing right now. Or at least that's what they're putting out.
Yeah, that's what I've been heard. So, Ghostbusters news. The Ecto Poppers are starting to show up in some stores we've seen online. I got a notification from Walmart earlier that my 2 that are on order for the kids are supposed to ship around the 21st was the estimated ship date. And I also got an updated shipping date from Target for the Afterlife Plasma Series Ecto-1 that it said I should have it around the 15th. And I don't know if that's the ship date or the receive date, but that's not bad. A few other things I did order, though. I ordered a Ghostbusters Race for Slime book or something like that. I forget the title for the kids. It's like a book with a little Ecto. And I'd completely forgot about it, but it's the Shadows of the Empire month, so what kind of asshole would I be if I didn't buy the vinyl fucking release of the Shadows of the Empire score? So I had to order my copy of that, so that should be shipping soon and arriving this month.
Yeah, I debated ordering that myself, and we'll see in the future if it's still available. I might, but it's the Shadows of the Empire had a score that was written for it that is not the video game score, but it's easy to think it would be, because it's not a score for a movie. It's just a score for the book, the toys. I don't know, if you were a kid, maybe you put it on the background if you had it while you were fucking playing with the toys. I don't know, or reading the book, but it's kind of like just one of the extra things they
Did the game
released.
use any of it?
The game has its own music, and it uses a lot of the other music. I don't think it does.
The only thing I could think that it might be in would be we need to compare on the video game cutscenes that were PC exclusive and that weren't on the Nintendo 64 scenes. They could be, some of that music could be mixed into those cutscenes. That would be the only place I would think it's in. Otherwise, this is a multimedia project where they said everything, they did everything besides producing an actual movie or film or series or whatever. So they've got music, they've got games, comics, toys, yada, yada, yada. So we'll be getting into all that. If you collect Mario or Nintendo stuff, I've got a bunch of stuff for the kids. And for Christmas, they got some Mario Kart Hot Wheels sets. And like all the character figures had been sold out at like Target, so there hadn't been, too many characters available. But then just after Christmas, they released a line of Mario Kart cars with the wings on them, right? So
I did see a Donkey Kong one today.
Yeah, the jet gliders. They had an assload of those at Target, which looked pretty cool. I think there's only like 8 of them maybe in the first wave, or 6. It's basically your standard characters. So those are a little bit more. I think the regular ones are about $5. Those are about $7. So if you collect any of the Hot Wheels stuff, they look pretty cool.
Look at those. I might hang them from the ceiling.
Yeah, those look pretty good. So now I got a few more cars for the kids. So, I mean, just to have those, like, I figure it's not like I'm going to sell their toys when they outgrow them. So I'll hang on to them and display them. And if they want them back since they're theirs, they can have them back. So, good stuff.
They're going to take a bunch of their Ghostbusters stuff in like 10 years. They're going to be like, all right, this is mine now. They're going to be like, damn it, I wish I bought doubles.
Who says I'm not planning on buying doubles?
I just mean of stuff that's already happened.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, they'll have to wait. They'll have their own collections. We'll have theirs and mine. Probably his and mine. They'll all get their stuff. Alec is over there high burping.
Getting the on ya?
No, but that smells an awful lot like Nick's mom.
I was making sure I didn't smell it.
Did you go on a road trip earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Very nice.
I like to call it a roadhead trip.
Yeah. So we were.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying. I've made videos of her doing that to me while I drive too. It's weird. But that's why you get a camera mount or a phone mount in your car. That way you can drive and multitask without having to hold the camera. Set that up like a champion.
Yeah, well, you get that, but then that doesn't get a great angle. So you also got to have one in your hand so you can cut back and forth. You got to get real good at editing your porn. You have 2 different angles, one of her head bobbing around and shit, and you being like, yeah. Then the other angle's up close, like, slurping and gurgling.
I thought that was like why people had a GoPro on an elastic band like a headlamp for POV videos.
That happens too.
Oh, nice. Well, we got to see Ghostbusters 2 on the big screen. We did a private screening for Ghostbusters 2 on Saturday and Sunday with the Midland Empire Ghostbusters. We are affiliated with them, but we are too crass, so just know that our public personas with that group are pleasant.
The opinions of views of this
Yes, the opinions and views of this podcast are no way,
are not
shape,
necessarily
related.
the same as Midland Empire Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Basically.
So the first time for you at the theater, Alec, for Ghostbusters 2?
Yeah.
And the first time for me and Justin since '89?
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I've seen Ghostbusters enough on the big screen. Like, I love seeing it that way, but it's not like I get super excited about, like, oh my God. Like, the first 2 times I think I saw it that way, it was, like, fucking life-changing because you're like, oh, this is so cool. But now you're like, it happens regular enough, you're just like, oh, okay,
At least once a year we can see it.
Yeah.
And I've already watched it with the Dan Aykroyd introduction and with Ernie Hudson and Ivan Reitman on stage, so nothing's going to ever compare to seeing that.
Was that a pretty big screen there then?
No, it was not actually. The screen was actually kind of garbage, but it was still the way it was introduced, you know. And also, I had drinking. I mean, we were fucking in L.A. I had drinking a pot drink.
Yeah, you went to a dispensary
I
and got a
smoked
beverage.
a blunt, and I had a cocktail when we were there. So it was just like, this is awesome. You can you can see the footage of this, some of it, you know.
Yeah,
on our YouTube.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of the vacation snippets on there.
Yeah, there's a video of just our LA fuckery and then specifically our Fan Fest adventures. So,
yes.
Yeah, that's a good time to just plug the YouTube. Check that out in general. We're almost at 100 subscribers. Get us there. Get us there. I need it. I crave it.
Yeah, we're just going
I'll
with
do
slow,
anything to get it.
natural, organic growth. So if you know anyone that might like our brand of humor, just tell them to check us out, you know? Spread the word. If you were to spread the word like Nick's mom spreads her legs, Jesus Christ, we'd be fucking... we'd have gone viral by now, and I'm not talking about the viral load that she has.
Jesus.
That guy's a terrorist, by the way.
You know that scene where Kevin McAllister does this with his face and goes, ah! That's what I do after I dip my penis in peroxide after I'm finished with your mom's.
Oh, shit. It's terrible.
Oh.
Nick's just sitting over here like, I'm going to stab these motherfuckers to death someday.
He's just going to poison us when he's bringing us coffee or something someday. I brought us some root beers to drink, guys.
I don't care. You just need new material.
I think it's more amusing to us than anyone else, which is why it's great.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, we know it's not really that funny. It's just hilarious to say to us because, like, we get a kick out of saying, like, how extreme we can get with it.
Oh, yeah.
It's
one of those things, like, everybody's thinking it, I'm just saying it.
Okay.
What?
Fire HD.
Oh, that's for the kids.
What is it?
It's an Amazon tablet.
So, Ghostbusters 2?
Yeah,
4K.
Let's talk Ghostbusters 2 4K.
Ish.
Yeah.
Ish.
4K question mark?
Yes, very much a question mark on
It
this.
was a 4K disc, but maybe not.
Ghostbusters 2 4K?
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 4K.
I don't know. Maybe.
But it was still a big picture, so what did we notice?
I mean, it was a big picture. It was on the wall. I saw Bill Murray. He was there.
What did we notice that we hadn't noticed before?
Well, so if we're going to talk, like, everyone's seen Ghostbusters 2, hopefully if you're listening to this, right? And if not, go check it out, rewatch it again. Cause
most of you haven't seen it on the big screen.
No.
In 30 years.
So we do have a few questions on the screening. You know, we sent the... Nick gave the theater the 4K Blu-ray to play because they have a 4K Blu-ray player. The only question we had was whether or not the projector in that theater room was actually 4K projection. If not, the transfer quality of the movie is not the best. There's some rasterizing and some stuff like that with some of the lettering and things like that, and there's some really blurry shots in there too that just didn't look amazing. I felt like they look way better on a TV at home, so I'm not sure if it was the player or what the situation was.
I mean, we watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on that same screen, and I remember it looking fantastic comparatively.
Yeah, it did look amazing in there, and the only thing I would say is, like, even just the regular Blu-ray of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles looks good.
I watched Terminator.
That's what I mean. Like, the Blu-ray of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles looks better than the 4K of Ghostbusters 2. Is that what you're telling me? From my eyes perspective?
The only thing is if that's why I question whether or not the projector in there was actually 4K capable or not.
Now, when they played Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, what were they playing? Was it just a Blu-ray?
I don't know. I assume, because I don't think that's been a 4K release yet.
I watched Terminator 1 in that theater, and it was fine.
Yeah, it just depends. Like I said, it's hard to say. But, I mean, lots of times it's a sequel, right? And it doesn't always... I mean, look how long it took for us to get any special features on Ghostbusters 2 at all, right? This release has a lot of special features on there that were never released on there before, commentaries and things like that just weren't available previously, so...
What do you mean they're not available? Hey!
I had them committed.
You what?
To the psychiatric unit at Parkville Hospital. Or Parkview Hospital.
Do we know what they did with the 4K of Ghostbusters 2? Did they just upscale it, or did they actually...
Well, that's the question.
remaster it?
I don't know if they actually cleaned the film transfer and did that, or if they just took the Blu-ray transfer and upconverted it to 4K, right?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Which happens all the time, especially on like DVDs, like re-releases and stuff like that. Lots of times you'll get a DVD reprint, which was why color grading and stuff can be so terrible on some of these.
They still charge a good amount for that 2-disc set, so... I mean, it's more than 2 discs, but I mean, 2-movie set.
Yeah, the set right now, the set I have, I got through FanFest, so mine has the slime cover, but just that set, even without that, goes for like $100 for the steelbook case.
When it first came out, it was like $50 or something. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you can
some
still...
money for it. So. I mean, you get the Blu-ray and the 4K. But
I think it was like $23 or $24 through Walmart.com.
It dropped pretty quick.
When I looked early on there just for the 4K Ghostbusters 2. But they stopped making the steelbook version of it. That 35th anniversary edition was a one-time thing, limited release. So if you have it, hang on to it because it's valuable.
I feel like they should have told people that it was limited, because I didn't have any clue of that. And I was like, yeah, I'll just buy it when I have a 4K Blu-ray player, because who the fuck had one of those a year and a half ago?
Oh,
my
exactly.
God. I still don't have one.
Yeah, I haven't bought one just because I've got a 4K Roku, so I'm like, I don't know if I'll probably eventually get one just
4K.
to have...
4K TVs are cheap as shit. 75-inch was $600 at Walmart for...
Yeah, I was looking at that today, and I was like, my God, when I get a new
brand.
TV for my place, it might be pretty fucking badass.
And that's 5 inches more than my
Penis?
1080 one, so... Yeah, my penis is 70 inches.
Hell yeah.
So
be tripping on that thing.
Well, if you put a picture of your penis on a 70-inch TV screen, then...
There you go.
We were talking about how in Wonder Woman, the new movie... There's a spoiler.
Did you guys watch it?
Spoiler for Wonder Woman 84. There's a wishing scene where people are wishing for shit.
And Alec and I had this discussion about, like, why didn't everyone just have all of a sudden have giant penises, like,
Like,
flopping
that's
around?
really what would have happened. Like,
yes, there'd have
people's
been, like...
pants would have ripped off like the Hulk from their massive veiny bastards shredding their pants. Like,
yes, yes.
It would have been ridiculous. It would have been that, and then maybe the planet exploding.
Yeah, I watched that however many days ago. Did you guys like it, or?
Oh, man. We'll have to circle back to that at the end of this shit show. So let's talk everything else, but we can.
Well, that's the water cooler talk there.
I've got some word vomit about that one that I got to spew up.
Ugh.
So, I did notice a fair amount of stuff that I never really seen on this movie, but I also don't watch this as much as I watch the original, right? It just...
I do.
Watch it about as much, because I usually want to watch the second one after watching the first one.
I usually, if I want to watch the first one, but I feel like I've probably just watched it, I'll watch the second one. Or I'll watch the 2016 one, too. I do.
Well,
that
I guess
also.
let me put it this way. There's a lot of shit I noticed in this because I've seen Ghostbusters on a big screen, at a movie theater, at a drive-in, enough times in the last couple years. There's a shitload of stuff I noticed in there that I still don't know if I'd notice on a TV at home. So only having seen Ghostbusters 2 twice on a big screen kind of throws a different angle at it for me, but there was some stuff I noticed that I hadn't seen before. Like, the acting in this is much better than you think, right? And then the lack of any kind of swearing, and, like, the jokes are really subdued, and, like, we all know that's just because of the popularity of the real Ghostbusters, but there's a lot of subtlety in there that's great. Like, Bill Murray is way more subtle in this movie than he was in other ones. Just with some of the way his facial expressions are, I got a kick out of that, right? Like when he's interviewing the guests on his show and he kind of makes all these faces and stuff. Like seeing that on the big screen was
The only one that
hilarious.
was ever really super clear before is when he just straight up deadpan and looks right at the camera.
Yeah, but as like
That was
they're telling
obvious,
and
but, like-
they pan back and forth to him, even when he's talking about...
You can tell the subtleties in his face. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. Even Egon, right? I mean, you see that...
Oh, yeah, the whole scene with him and Dana when he's like... Eventually he starts measuring her response to what's happening.
Lab, yes, at the lab, that was awesome because like she gives him a kiss and like you see this huge smile, and then like smile. Hey, wait for my voice to crack. It'll be soon enough. But yeah, he scans her from behind when she's talking about Venkman and all that stuff. When I get a kick out of that, that was good.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed was in the court scene when the prosecutor is, talking to Bill Murray, and he's on the stand, and she, like, puts her hand up there. And before he says something to her, I don't even remember which line it was.
He calls her kitten.
Is that when he says kitten?
Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to say, and he puts his hand on hers, and I never noticed that, and then she pulls it back, like, repulsed.
Yeah, she's, like, clearly pissed off about it, which is funny.
Yeah, it's funny, because he's just being womanizing Bill Murray, like he is in these movies. Hey! I wonder if he carries around Thorazine in this one. Anyway.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is that Dana, when she's talking about Yano, she's like, do I have bad breath or something?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the look on her face, like, she says no, and, like, the look on her face is fucking pure disgust.
She actually turns around and goes, woo! You actually heard an audible woo! I was like, what? I've never noticed that.
Yeah, we also had the sound up pretty loud in there, too. I know when we went in there, Nick was like, hey, yeah, turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, I
like,
had her turn it up more from Saturday night.
Yeah, no, that worked out well, because there was a lot of subtlety in there I noticed too, so that was good.
Well, our group Saturday was talking more too, so I ended up regretting not telling her to turn it up that night.
Right. So I made a controversial decision when I made my Nest Advantage controller. I didn't have I took the cord off it just because I didn't want it on there. There goes my voice. If you heard it, just a little bit of crack in there.
Did you get a good look at that?
Yeah, there's no cord in the movie.
Really?
They don't have the cord on it, so because the way the angles they show it on, so I was like, okay.
I got some good looks at the slime blower, I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good views in the
still
slime blower.
Waiting for mine.
Yeah. There's just looking at other little details, like just trying to look around. Like, did you realize that when they're down in the subway, like they're carrying around like a big pickaxe? Like I guess I'd never paid attention to that before. I guess Winston's carrying it when they're asking about getting the proton packs or whatever else. He's got that.
I got some good looks at what they had on their belts in that scene.
Yeah, they have they're basically just wearing their black belts from their costumes on there. So like Ray's even had the ghost holster on it and everything else.
Yeah.
And the belt gizmo and all that.
And they got their
yeah.
There's something on Ray's belt that was like red. Maybe it was a pouch or something. I hadn't noticed that before.
Not 100% sure.
Because I was like, maybe one day we should cosplay that, and that's a good way to get a good look at it. But
yeah. There's a lot of detail in there, though, that I know. Like, so in the courtroom scene, I was specifically looking for Winston after Winston came up and approached him once, and then he's nowhere else to be seen in that.
Although I don't think I ever noticed the little person that was in the front row, because after the ghost attack, that other guy
picked him up and carried that.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god! I noticed that Saturday night. I started rolling.
I never noticed that either. Right? There's just so many things that when you have.
I thought it was a child before or what.
Yeah, I think you must have because you're not thinking too much about it. So. And then I did get a kick out of like the fact that Alec and I had been on the scene or on the street where they're actually digging the hole. I got a kick out of that. That was good.
Yeah. I remember when they climbed out of the sewer and they were like covered in the slime, What I said was, that's us when we leave Nick's mom's house. Yes. And that made me laugh.
You come on each other?
No, we're just both covered in your mom's squirt juice. She's a squirter. Sorry to inform you for here. Ready to be the first to tell you.
She's incontinent.
Yeah, that's fine. The Scatman wrote that song for a reason, son.
I thought that little person was in Star Wars playing No, who I thought it looked like was.
Not all little
R2D2
people are the
actor.
same. You
Not all
jackass.
little people are Warwick Davis.
No, not the R2D2 actor. That's who I thought it looked like. Kenny Baker, was it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
That's what I was trying to look up here.
No, there's a lot of fun stuff in there to see. So if you have a chance to help out a local theater, it was a pretty cool way to do it. The other thing I noticed, there's a lot of changes on the packs as well. A lot of back and forth stuff. Obviously, like the shoulder pads, you know, they go from being like heavy throughout the movie to not heavy when they beefed them up to make them more comfortable for the crew. There's also something that's on the packs, like above the Alice frame on these packs that I hadn't noticed before. I couldn't quite tell what it was, so if you've seen that and noticed it, it's like basically right behind the foam area back there. Something else on the packs there that look kind of just like.
Speaking of packs, especially Egon's helmet or hard hat during the drilling scene, looked like they had some pack stickers on it.
Oh, I know they had a bunch of like political type stickers and shit on there. Yeah. Oh, okay.
They look like a couple of labels from the pack.
Could have been. But yeah, you could see there's a few things in there. Well, that you know, like compared to the Ghostbusters 1 packs, these look completely different. Like so on the ion arm where that's at and that connects, there's some hex head bolts that are on there and or screws, I guess, hex cap screws. And like those are actually sticking out, but in Ghostbusters 1 they stick in and they're flush with the aluminum, and then they've been painted in this one. So just little shit like that you've probably seen, but I just hadn't noticed on the big screen before. You know, a lot of detail there that you can't really tell otherwise. So
yeah.
Anything else come to mind for you, Alec?
Just that if you haven't, you should check out. Yes, Have Some did an interview with Kurt Fuller at one point about Ghostbusters 2, and it was awesome.
Yes.
It's a really good interview, and you should go check that out. I think it was done like 2 years ago, maybe. I don't even, maybe even longer. It's been a while, but it's a good interview on there in their feed. So I would check that out. He's in this as the mayor's assistant.
They talk about Wayne's World too?
I think so.
Or Wayne's World also, I should say.
I'm sure they mention it at least.
Yeah, I think that comes up a little bit. I just like.
But I think he got kind of at the start of his career with Ghostbusters too. Like that was one of his first big things.
Bigger roles, yeah. And then the fact that he reunited with Brian Doyle Murray later on for Wayne's World was pretty cool. So, yeah, just the facial expressions. The other big piece I'd say is all the movie not the movie posters, but the magazine covers and press coverage photos.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see that Venkman's got a bunch of those up on the wall in his apartment, like right outside his bedroom door, where he's also got like a vintage Ouija board, and then there's like a taxidermied sea turtle sitting on top of a thing in there, and then I saw like a thing of orange high C sitting around at one point in time.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting shit in his apartment.
We got a Ouija board on the floor, like up against the wall.
Yeah, I just said that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, did you know there's a Ouija board on the floor in Venkman's apartment? Did you know that?
That's pretty cool, but I don't think it compares to the Ouija board on Peter's floor in that one scene on his apartment.
Oh, yeah, it has nothing on that. And then if you notice in the firehouse, in the Venkman's office, he has a bunch of those posters and news press prints and stuff up as well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Quite enjoy.
Yeah. Janine's character, I think, for as toned down as this movie is, Janine's character is like the most revolutionized in this because like she's so sexual with Louis Tully in that movie.
My God, I've never wanted to be Rick Moranis more in my life.
I mean, like he's got that. I mean, everyone's seen that meme of like when you smash out of your league and like it's him and Dana, like, and then there's this one too. Like that's the sequel meme.
This gives me the same feelings as watching Batman Returns and seeing Catwoman. Those are the biggest two examples of when watching a movie, and I'm just like,
She seems so much younger in the second one.
That's just her hairstyle, man. Like that really.
And the makeup and.
I mean, I'm not saying she looks better in one movie or the other. She looks just as hot in the first movie to me. Now maybe she picked, the clothes are completely different and they're not as form-fitting and stuff like that, so that's clearly a thing.
In the first movie, she's very much more librarian and stuff, and like.
But that's still hot as fuck to me. So.
Yeah. No, I mean I get that, but then obviously in 1989 the fashion changed, so she had much more of a, like that right around you're hitting early 90s type fashion stuff. So I think like it just showed off her figure much better. So I don't know, just stuff you don't really notice before.
But she's also hot and pretty in pink and in general, so.
And then I know you notice all the Coca-Cola shit like lying around throughout the scenes. Obviously the high sea's owned by Coca-Cola, which is obviously why they're able to make Ecto Cooler, because they were just paying themselves.
Especially forever.
Yeah. So that was interesting, but just to see when they take the phone call from Venkman, and he's like, "Hey, Ray's got the skull cap on, and there's a can of Coke's like sitting right up there in obvious view."
I had never noticed this before, but during that scene, the slime is reacting to him going, "That's great!"
Oh, yeah.
When he says that, the slime goes, and it's because he has the thread leading down from his cap into the fucking slime. And I've just never noticed that before.
I never noticed that it went right into the jar before.
Yeah.
Into the slime.
That's literally them studying and figuring it out. And there's so many things like that always in Ghostbusters. They're always doing one thing while they're subtly showing you something if you're really paying close attention.
Yeah, the great thing about this movie is if you look throughout the entire movie, like everything they're working on like leads up to stuff. Right? So you can see the large tank of the slime blowers.
Yeah, he's working
in that
on
same scene. It's like just sitting there leaned up against something, but you also see the blower cannon itself and a couple of scenes in there. So it's kind of cool because you see that in Ghostbusters 1, obviously, when they get their first call, Egon's got a wand sitting on the table while they're eating Chinese. So
like got a screwdriver.
I like how they carried that on there. But I did really notice a lot more about how the humor is like way more family friendly in this. Like I said, besides Dana being overly sexualized there, and then Janos himself is pretty funny. Like his lines are great, but then you also get like the little subtleties, like the city will be ours and Vigo's, and mostly Vigo's. Like all the little shit in there that you notice, but like you see him acting that out in the room, like
it's insane. Like some of the subtle shit they have with him. One of my favorites is when they later come back to Vigo, and he's like, Vigo. And he's like, yes, I've heard this. I've all of this. I've heard this, yes. And then he finally says, command you, and he's like, command me, Lord.
Yeah.
Just like, that shit is great. Of course, when he's walking around, he's like, everything you're doing is bad. I want you to know this. No one listens to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very well acted, which you may not catch like if you're just watching it, because you're like, yeah, it's not quite as funny as the first one if you're just comparing it based on like the type of humor in it. Once you realize that the humor is different, it's 5 years later, like all these things, it really kind of just shows the evolution of what's going on there. But I appreciate it a lot more after seeing it on the big screen again. I mean, it's not like I've ever been like, oh, that's a bad movie, but
the white thing in Dana's hair isn't there until the shot where he grabs it.
Oh, yeah, it's strategically placed there. Yeah. But see, when I used to watch that, I never noticed that there's actually something in her hair. I always thought like it was just...
I noticed it once with the higher resolution stuff. But
yeah, see, I always thought he's just like pretending that there is in her hair, like he's just being a creep, but he really was getting something out, so...
And being a creep.
It was the cotton balls that she was cleaning her brushes with.
Yeah.
She had them on there. That's part of what it was, I'm sure. That's what it looked like.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, overall... The 4K transfer, at least from what I could tell, didn't look amazing, but just seeing it on the big screen, obviously a bigger screen gives you more opportunity to look at the background scenes and things you may not be focusing on as much. So,
and then of course the classic, do you want to have something to eat with me?
Yeah. And I laugh. I was like, maybe I can get his address off his taxes, his tax
off his
form.
W-2.
Yeah, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. Just like that. I feel like that was probably some of the stuff that was last minute come up with, but depends on how into the writing they were. I've never read the script for Ghostbusters 2.
And I love how different he is in this movie, right? He's not just like rehashing out who he was previously, which is why I'm sure he turned down a cameo and Answer the Call, and probably maybe even turned down anything in Afterlife at this point, right? Like he did a great job with that character, so... But if you don't feel compelled to carry it on, like, why do something you're not going to be happy with?
I guess he was willing to do the video game, but they didn't, think that he would. But when he found out they were doing it, it was too late to put him in it.
Sounds about right, considering he has done a fair amount of voice acting since he's been able to do that from home and has recorded music albums from home. home.
But apparently he was would have been willing to do it, but instead he just get his desk.
Oh, well. So that's Ghostbusters 2 4K. We are going to move along to a ranking. This will be much less controversial. People will be far less triggered as we go in and we rank the directorial work of Wes Anderson. And Nick probably hasn't even seen all these movies, so
I have not seen all of them, and I haven't seen the rest of them in a while.
So he won't be participating in this. I mean, he'll chime in here and there, maybe.
if he knows about anything we're talking about, we'll let him speak.
Yeah.
But if not, do not speak unless spoken to.
Just keep it going.
Hopefully we'll cover the movies individually one day, maybe.
Oh, yeah. At least some of them.
Oh, some of these for sure. So, Alec, I came up with this idea, didn't I?
No. I believe I brought up Wes Anderson films.
Oh, either way. Well, I guess I'll go first. My number 9 is the movie from 1996, Bottle Rocket. I've only seen this one like once or twice, and it just didn't really stand out to me the way the rest of them did. So I just, it's entertaining, but like you can still feel like that he's getting a hang of what he's doing there. So
You have to give it another watch. It's his first film, and it was funded similarly to films like Evil Dead and Clerks and stuff like that. And it was based on a short film they did that's based on some scenes from it. So
I want to say though that like Owen Wilson in this movie was like fucking extra obnoxious to me, but I'll need to rewatch it.
Believe me, there's some obnoxious Owen Wilson roles, but I don't think of this as one of them.
Okay,
These are more of his like Meet the Parents and stuff like this, where I really actually like him.
Maybe I need to review that one because this is of right now the way I feel in the moment. I'm just like, eh. What's your number 9?
Not because I don't think it's a good film, but just because somebody has to be number 9, Isle of Dogs.
But you did mention something earlier, and could you elaborate on that?
The thing is that it has been talked about as potentially subtly racist in some portrayals of characters and the way they do things and handle things, and the fact that it's like you're making this negative thing done by the Japanese people, and I won't go into it. It's more what I've seen from other people of that culture talk about how they've responded to it.
Okay, that's very fair. So racist undertones from people of...
Not to say that I think Wes Anderson is like that in any way, but I think that it just might rub some people the wrong way because of that. And
well, yeah, you can make something and not necessarily be, and be culturally tone deaf to what you're doing by not thinking of it that way, just being so focused on your story that you stop to think about the other implications.
I see Isle of Dogs as being a really good movie for like 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds who are transitioning from children's movies to some movies with more substance. Kind of like, I don't know, maybe you'd put Where the Wild Things Are there just because it has some more adult themes to it.
Yeah, the movie on that's way more in depth than the book. So there's like some existential stuff, some like coming of age stuff there that really kind of makes you...
But they're excellent in what they are.
Yeah.
So that's my number 9, and that's why.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because that's my number 8. Not because I hated it. It was a fun, entertaining movie, but it wasn't like a lot of his other work where I'm just like, oh, okay, I can watch that. I can watch that several times and really enjoy it.
I did work at the movie theater when this came out, and so I do have, since it was a Wes Anderson movie, and we didn't hang up banners, anytime they sent us banners, you could sign up for stuff and be like, anything Isle of Dogs that comes, I want that, you know? So
Yeah.
I got the big-ass banner that hangs from ceiling to floor for Isle of Dogs.
Oh, that's cool. Well, what's your number 8?
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Similar reasons, although I do like it slightly better than Isle of Dogs. The worst thing about Wes Anderson movies is seeing animals get hurt in almost every fucking one of the movies. It's kind of bizarre, but I think it's some sort of thematic thing that he does with characters and something like that. But some of the things are triggering, but like this one at least puts the animals in charge of most of that. They're getting back at the humans. There's some really cool stuff in this movie. I really like it. So.
Yeah, that's my number 7, actually. Fantastic Mr. Fox came out in 2009. One of his First things, it was actually based on, the Roald Dahl novel, so he obviously wrote Charlie.
Ronald Dahl, yeah.
Roald Dahl, yeah. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and all that good stuff. So you're probably familiar with his work, but this is an interesting adaptation of that, right? I enjoyed it, but the animation's fun, like with the, I don't know if that's all puppets or, what that's a hybrid of, but if it's like stop motion and what all that entails, but it's fun.
I think it's definitely, I don't know, it's superior to Isle of Dogs for me.
Yes.
Like clearly. I would rather watch it any day, but...
Well, I think the source material is a better starting point, so...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is.
So what's your number 7?
Number 7. I feel bad for this being my number 7 because I do love it, but I love all his movies, so you have to rank him somewhere. Is the Darjeeling Limited with
Adrian
Jason
Brody?
Schwartzman, Adrian Brody, Owen Wilson, Angelica Houston's in there. It's a very good story about family and like brothers and stuff like that, along with just being a wacky kind of out there movie. And Wes Anderson, he's a very certain type of director. He's very Wes Anderson-y. There's certain directors, you can watch one of their movies and you're like, all right, this is clearly a Tarantino movie or a Scorsese movie, and this is clearly a Wes Anderson movie.
The way he designs a lot of his shots and the way a lot of his sets are set up is just clearly like it's really
well,
easy
it's
to
also
tell.
like things like miniature models are still used. He uses a lot of weird practical random effects that are still like look like effects from the 40s and 50s films. He has a certain like obviously like French New Wave films and like indie films in general you can look at and be like, this is where Wes Anderson comes from, but also just random shit like The Graduate and like Harold and Maude, all that type of stuff feels like, all right, I know where you're coming from, Wes Anderson. I get it.
Our lists are oddly similar right now, besides being off on the numbering. My number 6 is actually the Darjeeling Limited. That's from 2007, obviously. So it's fun. It's a little bit more of a slow burner. The stakes aren't quite as high at the pace they are in some of his other movies, right?
Once you've seen the movie once and you understand everything, then it's easier to go back and watch it and be like, okay, now I can indulge in these characters more.
This movie does have a higher replay value than you would initially get on the first viewing, right? There's a lot of things you're going to notice that you may not catch the first time, because when you go back, it's one of those, I think, we talked about before we recorded it, it had some Jackie Brown vibes because it's well done, but it's not as frequently talked about, just because there's some stuff there that's a little off from what you're traditionally used to. So you gotta get used to it and give it a fair shot. So
yeah.
What's your number 6?
My number 6 is Bottle Rocket.
All right.
Because I really like that movie. One of my favorite scenes is when they're sitting there all talking around the table, and there's the gun sitting on the table. And it's Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, and this other guy named Bob, who they brought in to help them with the job. And Bob keeps trying to, like, fuck with the gun. He's the one who gave them the money for the gun, bought it, so it's technically his gun, but he keeps trying to fuck with it. And Owen Wilson's character is just like, I can't talk with you, keep fucking with that gun. Like, put the goddamn gun down. And he just keeps fucking, every time he stops putting with it, he starts fucking with it again. It's just a hilarious scene. See Owen Wilson get triggered.
It's relatable for you, huh?
So that's my number 6.
Okay, fair enough. Well, my number 5 is the Grand Budapest Hotel from 2014. Now, it was hard to put this in the number 5 spot because it's really fucking well done. I love this movie. There's so many things that are interesting in it. It's a fun story. Just the hotel concept. There's so many things in this that like had some fucking Shining type vibes to me, just with the way the hotel felt to me and like the spacing and everything in it. Like, and not in a bad way or a weird way. Just like, okay, like a kind of that hotel vibe. There are the things you get out of that. So that one's great.
My number 5 is Moonrise Kingdom, which is excellent. I'm not sure what to say about this one. I've seen this one probably about as many times as Darjeeling Limited, but it is super good quality. I just watch it less because it's more of a kid. It's focused on kids for most of the movie. There's other adult characters and themes happening. Like Bill Murray's character in this, I fucking love because he's just like. At one point, it's one of my favorite like little meme things. That's just like. And by meme things, I mean it's actually not a meme, but people would call it a meme just because the picture with text. It's the picture of Bill Murray laying in bed where he just says like, "I wish the roof would rip off and I would get sucked into space." Just like those subtle little lines of shit like that there's no conversation behind that. That's just one thing he says in there. But yeah, that's a good one.
I can dig it. My number 4 is Rushmore from 1998. Saw this in theaters. It's pretty good. Holds up very well. So again, it's a very coming of age story though, but I like how he writes young people in an interesting way, right? Because he writes them from a very adult perspective, like wise beyond their years typically. Like you really see that in Rushmore. And it was like the first time you'd seen some really silly shit for me like that. Like to see indie filmmaking like this at the time really stood out because...
Well, yeah, this movie has like screwball humor and like some of the most highbrow shit.
Yes, it's like all over the place, and it's got a little bit of something for everyone. Like Bill Murray's in it, he's funny. Jason Schwartzman's obviously great in it, you know, like his character. And then even when he's putting on like stage shows and plays and productions in there, like...
You know who one of his little friends is played by?
Who's that?
Dennis the Menace from the Dennis the Menace movie.
Ah, okay. No,
that's his friend's mom who he lies about getting a hand job from.
Nice. That's very interesting. Guess I never put 2 and 2 together on that piece.
I recognized him. I was like, who is that? And I looked it up, and then it was like, oh, that's the fucking kid from Dennis the Menace.
That makes sense now that you say that, right? Because there is a very familiar feel to that. So, what's your number 4?
Grand Budapest. This movie is one of the best movies that's ever been made. It's fucking super captivating. It's hard to stop watching. It's just like one of those like, I just want to watch this. Talking about it makes me want to watch it. I actually have a little lobby boy hat that I bought at a fucking store once. It's like a little costume recreation of the one that he wears in this. Which, by the way, if you've seen any of the MCU movies, you've seen the main character in he plays Flash, but he plays Zero in this movie. It's pretty interesting. It's a lot more subdued role. He's a lot quieter, but he's the main character. It has one of those weird framing devices, but it's a really good movie. Yeah, it's just incredible. You should watch it if you haven't.
The cinematography and the sets in that one are really unique as well. Like, not that the rest of them are not unique, but they're really fun in that one. I love just the way it's shot, the way it looks, the colors, everything. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, my number 3 is Moonrise Kingdom. That's a really well done story. Another coming of age. Just some younger characters there. There's some stuff in that movie that's a little. I mean, they have a little bit of sexualization of like these preteen characters, which gets a little weird. Like you're just like, okay, I'm surprised they did some of that with the editing the way they did. But he's just trying to tell the story of the coming of the age stuff. So I was a little shocked on some of that when you see it on first watch. But
that's why it's not my like most rewatchable. It's because it's you're spending so much time with those kids. It's like, I can relate to these other movies more now. So
yeah. Some of the scouting stuff in there is pretty good. Like Edward Norton's character is great. I believe Harvey Keitel is one of the scoutmasters as well. And it's just very interesting and well done. But yeah, it's not quite
Bruce
as...
Willis is in that one.
He plays...
He's the guy fucking Bill Murray's wife.
Yep. Yeah, so the whole cast of this is amazing, but a lot of the focus is just on the 2 children basically running away. So
yeah.
But once you get the other characters more involved, then it becomes a much more compelling overall story for a review or being able to rewatch it, I guess.
Yeah.
What's yours?
My what? Number 3?
Yeah, your number 3.
Royal Tenenbaums. Royal Tenenbaums is a really good movie. there's a few triggering things in this. The character of Royal Tenenbaum is a fucking complete asshole skeet towel. Nothing pisses me off more than seeing him take children to dog fights. Makes me wish he really did have cancer and die in that movie. Or get hit by a truck or get his dick cut off or something. I really fucking despise his character and hate him. I don't know if you're supposed to necessarily feel that much hatred towards his character. You're not supposed to like him. He's not a likable guy. But he's trying to, get his children's love back, basically, and get his life together, but also manipulate them and just take advantage of them because he's... And the only reason he's doing this is because he's homeless at the time, basically, or he's about to be. So it's kind of a whole thing. But Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow, yeah.
Yep.
And Angelica Houston.
Bill Murray, obviously.
Bill Murray. Little kid, I can't remember what his name is, but he's in Freaks and Geeks as one of the Dungeons and Dragon nerds, I think.
Is Alec Baldwin not in there, too?
He's the narrator.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember seeing him, but I just remember his voice.
I'm the narrator for this movie.
Isn't Hackman the dad?
Yep. Yeah, Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
And Danny Glover. He's in there, too.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, that's my number 2, Royal Tenenbaums. That's great. That came out in what?
2001.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, 98's Rushmore.
Oh, okay, I wrote down the wrong year on that one when I was jotting my notes down. But yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I remember seeing that with Josh and buddy Josh. He had the DVD of that, I think, and that's how I watched it. I didn't see that one in theaters, but just an interesting, compelling story, right? You just see how fucked up and dysfunctional the family is, how everyone's kind of gone their own way. It's a great view.
Yeah.
Again, and then there's just the way he uses colors in his movies. There's always recurring themes of the colors and the schemes and that so.
Yeah.
So what's your number 2?
Number 2. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
That'd be your 1, but must be his.
I mean, I'm sure it's his number 1. Yeah. Somebody has to be number 1, but somebody has to be number 2 also. And the only reason this one's number 2 is probably because there is a point when you're watching this movie when you're like, wait, is this movie ending? What's happening? And it might not even happen in your mind for that long before you realize it's going to happen. But this movie is also fucking incredible. It's one of the best movies I've ever watched in my life.
So you think it has pacing issues?
At one point.
Okay.
Other than that, it's pretty fucking masterful. But it's another example where your protagonists don't have to be perfect people and entirely likable. Because, again, Bill Murray's kind of a fucking dick in this movie. But he's also fucking heroic and awesome as shit, so where do you draw the line here? You don't, because it's Bill Murray. You just say, fuck it, I love him.
He's not usually a dick in movies.
In these movies, he is.
No, I know he usually is.
No, to me, so this came out in 2004? That's obviously my number 1, like you said, Nick. But it's so fucking incredible, and it's not even, Bill Murray's amazing in this, but this is hands down my favorite Owen Wilson role, just because he pairs so well with Bill Murray in there. But then, even fucking Jeff Goldblum's character is fucking phenomenal, and he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he has enough screen time where you're holy shit.
Isn't Steve Zahn in this?
No.
No. Willem Dafoe was also great in there. His character, right? Because he's usually such a fucking asinine villain. He plays more of a sensitive character in here, and it's really well done.
Esteban was eaten. What? Eaten. He was swallowed whole?
And I think out of all the movies, I love the ocean scenes. I love the Steve Zissou base camp. I just love the way this movie was shot. I love the views of it. Everything about this movie is amazing. It's just hands down my favorite,
Yeah.
It made me really appreciate Bill Murray in another light because, there's some movies in the 90s that, were okay. And, this is kind of, to me, this is his return to comedy. But as a new man of comedy, right? He's completely different than what you expect out of old Bill Murray in there. He's kind of got his, the modern Bill Murray, I would say, the modern Bill Murray came from this movie. Kind of where you see him here, so.
He had to leave filming of this to accept his award for Lost in Translation, which came out the year before. which is one of my favorite Bill Murray roles.
Yes.
But my number one also features Bill Murray, and it's Rushmore. Rushmore, I think, is Wes Anderson's top film for me. It's fucking incredible. Max Fisher is one of the most interesting characters I think that's ever been written for film. And Bill Murray's a little more, Bill Murray-ish, but he also is completely different than, he's depressed, this guy, he's fucking miserable, so that's really cool to see Bill Murray acting that way. This has one of the best soundtracks of some of the Wes Anderson movies, too, which they all are excellent. Like, Life Aquatic is probably my favorite of them all, but this one has a lot of good song choices as well. It's just my number one.
Yeah, I would agree. The music choices in there are great. Now, the overall score, my favorite is Life Aquatic, just because I love some of the music in there and things like that. Like, to this
That's
day,
because he scores like the movie, so they use the movie music that they're scoring in there as the score, and it's great. It's done by Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo.
Nice. Yeah, and like some of the Pink Island song, like I still use that as an alarm, like tone on my phone all the time.
Mark Mothersbaugh has done, I think, all his movies since Rushmore. And he also did Thor Ragnarok. He does lots of movies.
Excellent stuff right there. So, jump in the comments. Let us know what your ranking of the Wes Anderson films are. Unless you're like Nick and you haven't watched them all, then tell us what your top 5 are if you haven't seen them all. But I'd highly recommend it. If you like his movies, just look up his discography, or not his discography, but his filmography, and just go with it. We're talking about soundtracks and scores, and I got a little derailed there.
Wes Anderson, he has a small cameo in Life Aquatic when he plays the guy that's talking shit on Bill Murray when he first has Owen Wilson at that bar after they've met the next day or whatever.
Oh, okay.
He's like, is that bastard or asshole, whatever he says, talking about me? He goes over there and he's like, it's the French guy talking shit on Bill Murray's character.
Is that the only one he's actually got a cameo in?
That I can think of. But Luke Wilson's other brother also has cameos and stuff. He the
other brother?
Like if you watch Royal Tenenbaums during the scene where they're showing flashback to Richie's famous tennis game, where he lost his shit, the people talking are Wes Anderson and Luke Wilson and Owen Wilson's other brother.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
And he sounds just like a combination of the two of them, like somewhere between Luke and Owen.
That's funny.
Like hello, how's it going? Not quite like I'm Owen Wilson.
Yeah. Makes sense. So jump on there, social media, let us know what your ranking is. So you want to jump into some Shadows of the Empire?
I'm yawning.
It's because you're high and tired. Means you're hired.
You're hired.
So, as we've all mentioned recently, that we're going to be covering some Shadows of the Empire stuff. And so, the first episode of January 2021, we're just going to kind of break down what we're going to talk about, right? So, we're going to talk about, obviously, the novel.
I have a list of everything here, so you may as well let me rattle this out for you.
Oh, here comes Alex. Spit it off like it's
There's a
fine
novel.
Print.
There's a junior novelization. There's comics.
I didn't know that.
There's video game. There's a soundtrack. There's trading cards. There's role-playing games. There's posters, model kits, Micro Machine toys, action figures, and vehicles from Kenner. That's a lot of shit.
For a non-movie, TV show, product, whatever. So basically, the whole concept behind this was to fill in the gap between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And I think this is kind of leading up, like, right...
They did this in anticipation of the special editions and the prequels. This was kind of a push.
It was kind of testing the waters, too, right?
I wouldn't say testing it, because they were already in... They knew this shit was happening.
Well, yeah,
this came out the same year as the special editions started, or the year before.
The special edition was testing the waters for the prequel, something like that.
Well, the special editions, when they were out, the prequels were already filming, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they started filming that in '96.
Yeah, and that's when this came out, right?
Yeah,
so
I guess that's true. Yeah.
So there's a couple of key
I'm pretty sure.
things.
Yeah, this is one of they knew what they were doing with Star Wars in the '90s.
Or maybe just getting people worked up for it, getting like
exactly.
Like
That's
an
what
appetizer.
That's exactly what it was.
Appetizer.
It's literally, quote, to reinvigorate the franchise ahead of the special editions and prequels. I have that written down here. You just didn't let me get to it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I've got quite a bit of the literature available on this, right? I've got a hardcover copy of the book, which if you're going to follow along... Alec has the paperback because he's cheap.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can still get a hardback.
I'll get the hardcover soon enough.
Going to Nick's mom's house to get the hard cover. I've also got the trade paperback of the comic books, which some of the action figures came with comic books. Some of the 2-packs did.
Yeah.
And then there's a great book called Secrets of Star Wars Shadows of the Empire by Mark Cadavaz. And basically kind of describes the entire way they designed the whole process of this, right? Like, okay, we're going to do everything besides release a movie or show for this. And just to kind of build interest with Star Wars. So I know everyone's lost their shit about, seeing Boba Fett come back and getting some more stuff in depth on Boba Fett as a character. But Shadows of the Empire does do a little bit more of kind of filling in that gap, like the bullshit he deals with while trying to get Solo turned into Jabba the Hutt and all the other fucking gangs and bounty hunters that he has to deal with. So it does fill in a pretty good gap there. It's not super detailed, but it really helps kind of flesh some of that out, so you can appreciate that. It's kind of one of those things, I think they would have written some of that a little bit differently, though, had we known it was a clone, right? Since Lucas just kind of had a real basic idea of the prequel trilogy at the time. I think there's a few things that may have been different in this. But overall, I'd say it's pretty awesome. But read the novel first, then the comic book fills in quite a bit. The video game fills in quite a bit. And actually, how the internet's always listening to everything you say, I've got a targeted marketing for Shadows of the Empire, the PC game, on my phone the other day after we've been talking about this lately. And I don't know if it was through one of the online distributors of games or whatever, so it was basically trying to tell me I should, do that through the Humble Bundle. And I'm like, huh.
That's funny.
And then obviously I also bought Shadows of the Empire, the Game Secrets book, just because we're going to play through that.
Yeah, I bought both of those books as well a couple months ago when we were... over the summer, we were buying a bunch of this stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
And we're still doing it. We both bought a bunch of the figures and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I'm still going through finishing out that collection. I'm doing pretty well with overall. I've got most of the figure line, and then I haven't really touched the Micro Machines line yet or the trading cards. Don't know if I'll jump into that. I don't know what angle I'm going to take on that. I did see on eBay the other day an entire unopened box.
I might be a completist because the line's not that big. Because that'll only require those 2 other vinyl dolls, which you have one of. There's a couple other little statues, and then there's those model kits. And then the trading cards.
I think I still have the Vader, Zizor, and Boba Fett IG-88 2-packs.
Yep, those were the 2 2-packs.
And they did come with a comic book. I think I still have them stored away somewhere.
Yeah, so this toy line is not gigantic, but it's pretty cool. I mean, because it was unique.
It has 2 2-packs and then maybe 6 individual figures, 2 vehicles, 2 big vehicles, and 1 smaller vehicle.
Yeah, so they got a re-release of the Slave One, which is, Shadows of the Empire branded, so that's all fine and dandy, right? It still comes with the Han Solo and Carbonite, so you get that. And then obviously there's Dash Render's Outrider, which is a pretty cool ship.
Yeah.
The toy doesn't look quite as awesome as the actual design is of it. There's a few things that are a little off, but overall it's still pretty cool for a ship like that, especially for, I had that as a kid, and, you didn't have the fucking Millennium Falcon. The way that the cost difference on that was fucking nuts.
I remember that one Millennium Falcon when I was a kid. That thing was huge. It was, scaled to the figures,
Well, they had the original one that they'd re-released from 77 that was kind of small, and you could kind of stuff a few people in the cockpit, but then they released that larger scale one that you're like, holy fuck.
I remember at Toys R Us, I was like, man, I want that.
Yeah. Make my dick hard talking about it.
Oh, yeah. So currently, right now, I think I've got. I'll just run down my toy list just because it's kind of fun too. Or I'll just run down what I don't have right now. I need to get the IG-88 Boba Fett 2-pack.
I need to get another one of those because I opened one because it was in bad condition. And I want both of these. I want to have sealed and unopened. Or opened.
And then I've got the Outrider. Oh, wait, so I'm talking about what I don't have. So I need the IG-88 Boba Fett 2-pack. I need the Slave 1 and package. And I think I have all the other figures then. Like, everything else is off the list. Then I also need the other full-size vinyl Sheezer doll.
You want those unopened, too?
Yeah, everything I have right now has not been opened. Everything's on card.
Which I'm going to collect this. Since it's so small, I'm going to collect this line on card and open as well. So, I mean, I was able to buy an on-card Seizure for $2, if that is any indication of where this line's at right now.
And there was a follow-up. So there's another one that's like a Leia in Sheezor that was released later on, and I'll probably wind up picking that one up just to be a completist. But that's part of a different line, but that does come back from this Legacy series, right? It's a weird Legacy toy line.
Yeah, like one of the other toy was a 2-pack with General Thrawn and someone else, so it was taken from Legacy stuff, all of that line.
Yeah, so that's kind of
what is now Legacy stuff. I don't know about that.
Yes. No, it was just called the Expanded Universe then, so.
There's a couple other notes about things we'll be talking about this month. We may or may not have the writer of the novel Steve Perry on. I figure I'd just go ahead and tell you guys this. It just depends on what his schedule is going to look like and stuff. So we may or may not have the guy who wrote the novel for this and also invented the character of Dash Rendar.
Yeah.
So that would be pretty fucking sick. You may or may not be able to hear an interview with him from us, but hopefully we'll get that for you guys. So
been in contact, just kind of waiting to hear from some follow-up stuff there. So.
Yeah.
Our schedules may be more flexible than his too.
Yep.
Might record at a different day or time.
Next week, however, we are going to feature the boys from Toy Anxiety over at Yes Have Some. Craig Goldberg and Ryan Dole are going to come on and talk the toy line from Shadows of the Empire with us. So we'll be going into depth about each of these figures and the vehicles and all that stuff next week more. So
yeah, that should be pretty exciting. And like this Shadows of the Empire, the Secrets Up book, obviously has a pretty interesting section about the toys, right? So we'll kind of run down some of the highlights there for you and kind of talk about those.
Yeah. I also wanted to note, for anybody curious, Dash Rendar was made canon in the new universe. So he is currently canon in the Solo, a Star Wars story novel, Tales from Vandor. And apparently Seizure is also canon, but I will give you this. Both of these are some kind of shitty ways to be canonized, but this one's worse than Dash Rendar's. At the Galaxy's Edge, you can buy a cookbook, and in this cookbook, there is something called a Seizure salad.
And it's probably a replica of a Caesar salad.
So it's canon.
Wah, wah, wah.
I thought he was mentioned in some novel or comic or something at least.
Recently?
I think. Since Disney.
He's at least in that.
Yeah.
He may have been, and
So
obviously the Outrider's been canon long
Yeah.
before that, because the Outrider is seen in the special edition of A New Hope. So it's interesting to see like what Disney's doing right now by bringing in some of what they consider the best of the best from the expanded universe, and at least taking character concepts that are fan beloved, but not necessarily keeping the traditional stories about them, right? So Alec and I have long discussed that like Dash Rendar could easily come up at any point in time now, especially in the Mandalorian timeline, right, as a bounty hunter or a vigilante, or not a vigilante, but a mercenary, right? You know, he's kind of the same kind of thing. So
I'm definitely hoping for it. It'll be interesting if we get to see Seizure or not, but really I just want to get Dash Rendar and the Outrider. I want to see them fucking live action, and Mandalorian would be the perfect fucking place to do it, or the Ahsoka show, or any of these shows, you know?
Any of the 100 shows coming.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and you could blend these characters in there well, all right? They don't necessarily need a huge starting role in there, but make some more of these characters.
The Cassian Andor show, maybe. That'd be the closest to...
could be.
Shadows of the
very
Empire
well could be, yeah.
They could introduce him there, and then later again he pops up older.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to do. Especially a character like that, right? That because I think a lot of people thought it was very controversial that Lucasfilm developed this project very specifically, intentionally, and then decided to not have it be part of the Disney canon, right? Now, there's a lot of stuff that was expanded universe. It's called the Legacy stuff now. Yeah, it's been, picked through, but it was very curious that they spent so much time and money on this and even had its own official toy line, not just like hey, here's some like extended universe stuff. Yeah. But actually had its own toy line and all the media that was surrounding this, and to say that this isn't canon, it was kind of like, oh, that's kind of strange. Yeah. Because it tells an important part of the story. Like, obviously, you do fine without it, but you do kind of like get a good fun story out of there too, right? Some of my favorite things about the Shadows of the Empire is all the time you get in Vader's head, right? You get to learn about how Vader is as a person working under the Emperor and the shit he deals with, right? Because,
yeah.
To be a total badass, like, you still go through some bullshit yourself, so.
Yeah, I still think they could do stuff with it, so.
There's a lot of opportunity to, like, at least take these characters and put them elsewhere there, since they're compelling characters, so.
Yeah, we're going to get more in depth with all this stuff in the coming weeks, so.
This is just kind of the teaser, the general overview to kind of let you get your time to get caught up. So if you are wanting to follow along, you can get a really cheap copy of the book online or an ebook, whatever. The PC version of the game has some cutscenes. There's about 12 minutes worth of video cutscenes that kind of explain what's going on there to check out. Even if you played the 64 game a lot, you know that in and out. Just check out the...
You got those on YouTube though, right?
Yeah, Alec and I checked it out the other night to watch that. So it's worth checking out just to get the full story, right? The intention is that you have to consume all these products in order to get the full story. And I think that works out pretty well, because obviously the game, you're kind of playing as Dash Rendar doing all this stuff. The book's more about Vader and Chizor and Leia, and then the comic kind of has a little bit of everything in there, kind of filling in those gaps as well.
Yeah.
So. And then the making of book just basically talks about, how the entire project came together, all the different people working on it. It's pretty in-depth, so. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk another movie. So, we're going to talk Men in Black.
You know what I just watched?
Me pulling a can off some moron's fist?
Return of the Jedi. Did you see Alien? When that creature was in that guy's stomach?
Oh my god!
You ever seen that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back?
Jesus, Tony.
Welcome to Retro Release Reviews.
All right, so Men in Black. We're going to talk a little bit about that, since we haven't really covered that too much. So it's very much Ghostbusters adjacent, another Sony property, another unknown realm type of, kind of storyline of like, ooh, the unknown, the mysterious, the unsolved. And let's just jump right into it. So Men in Black came out in 1996. Seven? Oh, yeah, 7 was the release. That's right.
I was 6 years old, though.
But comics came out in 1990 and 1991. There was 2 3-part mini-stories that came out then on a different label. They got bought by another comic that got bought by Marvel eventually. So that's kind of interesting how that all works out. This movie actually holds up pretty well for what it is. But I was having a conversation with Alec the other night, and I really feel like this movie was made by Sony in part because of the Ghostbusters 3 Limbo. It felt like it filled that gap in the Sony catalog there, right? With some of that, like, just based on the humor style in it, the comedy, everything else was going on with it. A lot of even the effects and the visuals looked a lot like what you would have... If you ever want to imagine what Ghostbusters 3 would have looked like in the 90s, just watch Men in Black.
Oh, that's true. Because of the effects and stuff, it definitely would have looked like the mix of practical and CGI.
Yes, that's very much how that would have looked visually. So maybe the wait was worth it. I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out. But I say that it's very similar in that fact because, obviously Will Smith was tentpole comedian, kind of like big like Bill Murray was in the 80s, right? So you get a big household name, you get a veteran actor, Tommy Lee Jones, in there to kind of come in and play the deadpan guy that worked out very well for the comedic styling between the two.
That's one of my favorite Tommy Lee Jones roles.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and so I think with all the Ghostbusters 3 limbo, that this was like, hey, let's take this kind of concept of it. It's in the same vein, right? They've even got a crossover like board game, or I think Cryptozoic's making that and has announced it, but it hasn't released yet. So that's something we'll see eventually. Fun fact: none other than Bruce Campbell was also in talks for the role of the Bug, actually, that wound up going to Vincent D'Onofrio. Supposedly he had another role that he took at the time, or a scheduling conflict, which I'm not exactly sure what the fuck he was doing.
I think they say his name Vincent D'Onofrio, don't they?
D'Onofrio, maybe, I don't know.
And then also, what's the other guy's name? Now I can't think of it. He's in a bunch of the Coen Brothers movies. He's the star of...
Your Chocolate Starfish?
Barton Fink. What's the guy's name? He plays the Jesus in Big Lebowski. And he's in Transformers as that agent. And he's in Mr. Deeds as the butler. He was also set to play him at one point.
Okay, I could see that, yeah. I mean, you hear that, and like, as much as you love Vincent in there, like, it's really... John
Turturro. That's what it is.
It's really fucking compelling to hear like what Bruce Campbell could have done with a character like that. But you never know. Like, I'm really happy with how this movie turned out.
I would watch Bruce Campbell in anything. I don't care. So,
the other thing that's comparable to this, like, I feel like, you know, Will Smith writing his own theme song for it. Like, this theme song is not aged well. Like, Ghostbusters aged pretty well. Like, you can still hear that theme song and be like okay with it. Like, when you hear this one, it's like fucking super cheesy 90s. And like not in a good fun way, because like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song has fucking aged well. Like, you still hear that and it like holds up. But like this one, you're just kind of like, it's a little cringeworthy now.
I think it's enjoyable to listen to, ironically. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
here come the men in black, all over my face. Yeah.
So there's some fun stuff in this movie that, like, I hadn't really noticed, you know, when you go back and catch something. A lot of subtlety that you start looking for when you're just not watching the movie, just to, and there my voice cracked.
Like, geez, Scoob.
Oh, Captain Caveman.
And Son.
What?
And Son. Remember that?
Nobody remember what?
Captain Caveman and Son. Remember when the sun came on?
Also, nobody on the mic can hear you either.
Sorry.
It isn't even picking you up. You're not even making bumps on the fucking screen.
Yeah, your waveforms aren't even there. Your compression refraction shit.
And Son.
Oh, there you go. Put your face by the mic. Don't be shy. Your mom's not shy to put her face where it needs to be.
Mm-mm.
Why are you so shy?
I was just looking at you.
Just pretend like it's your mom's nipple and just put your face right up there and go.
Do like I do. Like this. Like this is it right here.
No, just nuzzle your nose on a little bit.
If you're still there.
Yes, by the way, we're assholes and we get distracted easily.
I like the scene that's probably the fucking most hilarious to me is when Will Smith goes there after he's given the card. You know, he shows up and he does some shit. And the scene where he's with all the other guys trying out, basically, and they don't know what they're trying out for and shit. That whole sequence is fucking hilarious to me, and it points out some things, like you may have been saying, were subtle until you're really paying attention. Or they're just hilarious, and let's talk about a few of those real quick. Like, when he's like, why are we here? After he's just, you know, fucking Zed's done his little speech or whatever.
Yeah, Rip Torn plays Zed.
Yeah. And he's like, we're here because of the best of the best of the best, sir. And then Will Smith is like laughing at this, and he's I think it's funny. He's really excited. He has no idea why we're here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he goes to, they're all breaking their pencils. And to me, what I'm thinking when I see this now versus when I'm a kid is, okay, this is the test. Fuck the questions and the paperwork. The test is what they're willing to do to get what needs done. And he drags the fucking table across. He makes the biggest scene possible. But that's okay, because they got a flashy thing. But he got it fucking done the best way possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's the point of that scene now. When I see it.
Yeah, that's completely different. As a kid, you're just kind of like, what's going on here? But he's just proving
it's just
that,
funny
like,
because he's an asshole and he's scraping the table against the floor. But then you see it and you're like, that's what he does later when he's shooting the noisy cricket out in public, and then they just call the mess up crew to fucking flash everybody.
Yeah, when he's thinking outside the box, right? He's not just fucking blindly following orders, he's finding solutions, right? And I think that's like the early foreshadowing you see later on in the movie.
Yeah.
That works very well, and it's fucking hilarious.
And it's just like the scene where he's shooting the aliens, except he actually tells you what's happening there, where he's like, well, this little girl out here with this fucking science textbooks, she's up to fucking no good.
Yeah, he's
all
like,
these people with she has like quantum physics books and shit, and like he's not snarling, he's sneezing.
Yeah, because then you see the tissue that's in that guy's hand, right? And so you're like, oh fuck.
And what he's saying is actually 100% accurate, because
Rip Torn just looks at him like, okay, yeah, you're right, and like doesn't question him, right? But at first he's like, what the hell are you doing? You gotta love the way Rip Torn sounds, man. Like he's so rah rah.
Yeah, he's great in this and Dodgeball.
Oh yes, amazing.
It's not Is it necessary for me to drink my own urine? No, but it's sterile and I like the taste.
Some of the other little things in this that are really funny, like when Jay asks Kay how many times you use that little thingy on me, and he's like real fucking vague about it. I thought that was
okay. How many
funny.
times you flashy thing me?
Yeah. And then the same thing when he finds out that they've done that to Dr. Weaver. I think that's her name.
I think that's when he's like,
does this cause cancer? Like, how many times you done that to her? And like he basically, works the morgue in New York, so it sounds like they do it all the time.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
The pug character's pretty good, and like the CGI for the pug's face talking actually holds up pretty well. Like it looks pretty good. Surprisingly, like it looks better there than it does in some other things.
And it's the cringiest part of the second movie. Well, one of the cringiest parts. The second movie is god-awful abomination, and I won't watch it.
The third one's entertaining.
Third one I will watch.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer because you don't have a lot of Tommy Lee Jones in that, even though he's back in the second one a little bit, but he's still awkward and weird.
Yeah.
But replacing it with James Brolin or whatever, Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin plays
I called him James. I called him his dad.
And he did a great job though of like having the same dry sense of humor and speech patterns and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he did. I mean, if you're gonna recast, like, it's a rare case where they've done that, because had they done that now, they would have just done somebody else and de-aged him, right? They clearly would have done something different, but at the time it worked well for what it was. So
yeah, that one has a decent plot. I actually still like that one. But there is something interesting in this. There's another subtle thing. When they get their lemonade from what's-her-face, Jay spits the lemonade back out because fucking Edgar's drank all the sugar there, so she didn't have any sugar for the lemonade that's implied.
Yeah.
It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, subtle but funny. Yeah.
Because he drank all the goddamn sugar. So the lemonade was just fucking lemons and water.
And then when they use the neuralizer on her, he's like getting all over Kay's ass. He's like, why aren't you like telling her like a more elaborate story? And then he's like telling her about
you don't need him. You gotta go out. You gotta get some new clothes.
Yeah, you're gonna get a designer to come through your place.
Because
like,
damn, he says.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like,
yeah, it feels a little aged in some spots like that, but it works because it's nostalgic at this point too. So it holds together for me.
One of the best parts of this movie though was like all the gadgetry, right? All the weapons and everything else, and he's like the noisy cricket, and like
it's a mix between it's James Bond meets Ghostbusters, basically in that sense.
It all looks super slick and produced, but it all does some crazy shit. So, the only thing in this movie that really looked kind of terrible, and it's not even that bad, like it's on par with some video games now, is the bug at the end when he's the giant cockroach.
I was about to say that's the worst effect. The bug at the guy alien at the beginning of the movie with the eye that looks behind him and shit and explodes in blue, he looks pretty good, and that's because it was a mixture of practical and CG.
Yeah, but when it's just the giant cockroach bug, that's when you kind of lose it. And it's mostly just the shadowing and stuff on there, right? You just didn't have the depth that we have now for computer animation. So it works still, but like had you had more practical effects in there mixed with that, I think it would have been better, but it's still fun.
Yeah. And
I love, like, we also talked about how they explain a lot of little things. Like in the Ghostbusters universe, they reference like things that happened in real life. Same thing in this, like, right? You know, they talk about the aliens coming to the Earth and then like the World's Fair. Like, how did you hide their spaceships? Like, oh, we hid them right out in the open here because the World's Fair. Like, you know, it's just They make sense of a lot of little shit that just
And
works well to
this
tell the
thing
story.
caused the New York blackout in 1970 or whatever.
Oh yeah,
That
exactly.
thing.
Little shit like that goes on and really kind of adds to the storytelling level. Little stuff, but if you're paying attention to the subtleties of it, it's a lot of fun.
The Carol Strickland, I think is his name. He's the giant guy, the giant bald guy, which is also, if you don't know, he's the giant from Twin Peaks. He's Lurch in the Addams Family movies from the 90s. And he was in, most recently, Dr. Sleep. He was one of the cult members. So.
Oh, yeah, he's huge. He's tall.
He died before that. I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure he died recently after that.
I thought it was before Dr.
Yeah,
Sleep.
I think that...
But he's in Dr. Sleep.
Well, he may have died before Dr. Sleep at least, but I think that was his last
He
role.
also had a recurring role in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Interesting.
Nice.
My knowledge of him comes from Twin Peaks mostly, and this growing up, but I didn't put two and two together.
Well, he looks a lot different in this than he does in the Addams Family.
Well, yeah,
right?
the Addams Family, but once you think of that, you're like, oh shit, that's clearly fucking him.
Oh yeah,
just has a wig,
height, jawline, all that. Yeah.
Big paint, makeup, all that.
It
stuff.
works well though, and even some of like the creature effects in here that.
Which this has the same director as the Addams Family Values, so that explains some casting. Probably the same casting director also.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. No, this movie is really fun. Holds up. Second one, like you said, is trash. Third one has some moments. It's
David
watchable.
Cross works at the morgue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks really
It's funny.
Oh yeah.
He was in Small Soldiers also in the 90s, like around the same time. It's funny stuff.
I don't think I've ever seen the sequels, at least not all the way. Maybe the second one.
Second one's bad.
Isn't that Johnny Knoxville's in that one?
Yeah, Johnny Knoxville, but the main villain is actually a girl from Twin Peaks. I can't remember her name now.
Do you guys like the new one?
I didn't. I watched like the first quarter, half of International before I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm shutting this off."
I mean, I let it
fucking plot.
I let it play through all the way, but it's just not compelling. But there was arguments like that has a lot of turmoil behind the scenes, and like we'll probably still find out more and more about all the fucking problems they had on production with that. Like it's almost as bad as Solo, like not going so bad as to get a different fucking director, but major issues with the writer and director and arguments over where the story should go. Like if you've seen fucking Thor Ragnarok, you know that Tessa Thompson and fucking why am I drawing a blank on
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth,
Jesus.
yeah. Well, there's so many fucking Chris's, you got to find the right last name to match up.
There's a few Hemsworths too.
Yeah. Well, his little brother's kind of a wanker, but
is he?
I don't know. He's in fucking Independence Day.
Yeah, that's the
sequel.
One,
yeah, but he's in Workaholics also in an episode, so.
I guess maybe. I don't know if we can forgive him for Independence Day, though. That's fucking trash.
Are you kidding me? Jeff Goldblum was in that, and you forgive him?
That's Jeff Goldblum, though. He's a man amongst gods.
You can't say you can't forgive him just because he's in that one movie and you don't even know one other thing he's in. I'm not saying the guy's God or anything. I can't name anything else he's in either. I'm just saying you can't say he's complete trash just for that.
No,
one
I'm
thing.
not saying 100% complete trash. I'm just saying less impressed. Let's put it that way.
But I will say Chris Hemsworth is overrated while we're here.
Well, as much as people may hate Answer the Call, like Chris Hemsworth was not compelling on screen until that, because that's where he got his fucking comedic timing and chops figured out. And after that, he's been much fucking better in everything he's been in. He could not have been Fat Thor or the same Thor he was in Ragnarok had he not fucking done Answer the Call. Like, if
Pretty
you like
much.
any of that shit, shut your fucking trap on hating Answer the Call, because it really fucking gave him a whole new skill set he didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
But him and Tessa Thompson had that fucking chemistry on screen, and like I'm like, okay, they're gonna be in the new Men in Black, right? Not traditional actors. It's gonna be international, whatever. And then you watch it, and you're like, how did you fuck up so bad the chemistry that these two people had from another idea? Just bad fucking writing. It's fighting behind the scenes, bad
Miserable on
production.
the set,
yeah, exactly. If you're not having fun on a set, you're not gonna have a good fucking movie.
Garbage.
Hot flaming diarrhea Cheeto garbage.
It's my Keemstar impression. I guess you guys don't know who that is, but he's just a fucking internet asshole. Looks like a garden gnome.
Well, you're an internet asshole, but you don't look like a garden gnome.
No, but this guy's like a real internet asshole. I don't mean like an internet personality asshole. mean, you could say that he's a personality, but he looks like a garden gnome, and he has allegedly made people want to kill themselves on multiple occasions. So, allegedly. He can eat my ass.
Hopefully it gets...
But one of the podcasts I listen to, they sample him a lot because he's talked shit on them.
Oh.
And one of the things he says is garbage. They always sample.
Fair enough. So now you know where Alex's insight comes from there.
Yeah. So if you see me, on the streets, and I say garbage, you know what I'm talking about.
All right. So we had no intentions or plans of this, but we just gotta fucking talk about it.
Real fucking quick. I don't have to. I'm already pissed off that you're bringing this back up. I thought you forgot.
No.
I was about to end this motherfucking thing. I'm gonna hit stop on the recording.
Is it a water cooler cult about
no,
Wonder Woman?
You can't have water cooler cult about anything that's not a TV show.
Oh.
That's what a water cooler.
People don't
references.
talk about movies at water coolers?
Not like a TV show where you're going back week after week.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
That's the whole concept with that, yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Nick.
Yes. Welcome to television. Welcome to serial programming.
Have you ever heard of a sitcom? Do you know what serialization is?
I just thought it was anything people would talk about at a water cooler.
When the fuck was the last time you were at a water cooler?
Last time I was at a water cooler, it was like, you should have seen this gaping hole on Nick's mom. Hey!
It was just the best category I could think of, or best...
All right, so I got home from work today and threw on Wonder Woman 84.
Oh, you guys watched it today.
Just because I threw it on, and then Alec came in shortly after I had it going, and he missed the whole intro piece where Diana's a child and is trying to learn some sort of life lesson. Blah, boring.
Oh, did you see the mall scene, though?
I don't know.
He missed the mall scene, too,
that
I think.
Was really cheesy and campy. I'll at least say that it didn't stay as cheesy and campy as the mall scene.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Let's talk about the serious fucking problems of this, right? Because there's a few things that visually are okay, whatever. But...
Wait. Where are you going to go with this?
Rape?
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, we got to go there, right? Because everyone's like, oh, Wonder Woman, empowering for women and children.
Well,
and women, children, and child women, whatever.
But she also uses ghosts to rape people.
Yes, so let's talk about this. So she wishes that her fucking dead boyfriend would come back. Right? And guess what? He comes back, and he's possessing someone else's body.
And why? Why did they make that
It doesn't
decision?
matter because that man did not give consent to have his whole fucking life stolen from him and to be raped by fucking Diana.
I mean, you got to think, before even Diana touches him, Chris Pine is borderline raping the guy just by being inside his body and being pervasive like that. That's... Like, imagine if someone could do that, what level of crime that would be and how you would judge people who could jump inside people's bodies and do that shit.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing, first of all.
Yeah.
And at very least...
Not his choice, though. He didn't ask to come back.
No, but at the very least, then he has to touch that guy's penis to pee. He has to, wipe his ass as that guy, unless he's ghost god and doesn't eat, which, I never watched him eat anything in this movie other than Wonder Woman's asshole, potentially. Which, not gonna say I wouldn't eat her asshole too. It's Gal Gadot. What are you? But come on. All I could do was literally.
We spent a significant portion of this movie talking about how fucked up it was, the shit that was going on to these people in this movie. Like, how are you trying to make a movie empowering people when you bring somebody back from the dead that has no business being there?
Even take out the rape aspect of it, it was just such a weird decision to have him come back in someone else's body, because I guess she still sees the real guy, but
she sees.
I'm a little confused about
she
that.
sees Chris Pine as Chris Pine, but everyone else sees him as the guy who's got his body stolen.
Well, she saw that guy's body at first.
It's like, is this Wonder Woman or Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Because this guy stole a body, he goes on an adventure. Well, by the way, he also learned how to fucking fly an airplane from modern technology.
Yeah, that was cool.
And you know what the biggest fucking waste of CGI money ever in a fucking movie is? When you put in a fucking 5-minute scene with fireworks for no fucking reason from an aerial view. You're like, nobody gives a shit. The 4th of July, yeah, shut the fuck up. Get over it. That was fucking terrible. Waste of time. And they're like, oh, we gotta steal a jet? Oh, by the way, I can make this jet invisible now. Bitch, shouldn't you already have your fucking jet? Where the fuck was your jet earlier when you needed one? You're just going to turn it invisible now? How convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what else is a fucking waste?
The typical bullshit of, oh, look, Kristen Wiig's unattractive because she's wearing glasses.
Oh, yeah, that whole thing pisses you off. They're like, if you've ever fucking lived with a woman, you notice that, like, Kristen Wiig is made to look like she just woke up. So she's, like, got her glasses on, her hair's, like, just kind of looking, like, normal or not done up. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we got to make her hot now because she made her wish to be cool like Wonder Woman. And all of a sudden, like, her makeup's done and her hair's done. And you're like, what's with this whole fucking trope of making a chick look like she fucking woke up and then being like, oh, she's beautiful now because she put makeup on?
She's all
It's
Speaking
so
of people
fucking...
who are ugly, let's stop with this myth that Pedro Pascal looks like anything other than a foot. That stepped on a nail.
I loved him in Home Alone. Like, there's a reason he was cast in The Mandalorian. Because
there's a reason you put a fucking mask over that face. It's the same reason you put one over fucking Adam Driver's face.
It's the same reason you put one over my face.
I mean, sure.
Nick's face.
He did kind of look
more
like,
Nick's face than my face.
They did kind of make him look like Trump, though.
Oh, with that fucking hair color and cut? Yeah, terrible.
Yeah. Not to say that he's a bad actor. I'm not even, really that serious about it. I'm just, fucking around with you here. But I do think he's not a generally attractive man. He's very average looking. But that's okay because people have to be average looking, so it's good that you cast people like that. I just think it's funny when people are thinking he's so hot, and I look at him, I'm like, but are you blind?
Yeah, that whole movie, and then
they just want to have his baby Yoda, that's all.
And then apparently, I don't know if they produced this the same time as they produced the Cats musical movie, but when Kristen Wiig wants to makes another wish, which how did she get a second wish? They don't ever explain that because they say everyone gets one wish. So she wished to be
because he's the stone now. Then there was the different stone before. That's how I would explain it if I was the guy who wrote this or directed it.
Well,
but
fair enough.
Release the butthole cut because I want to see Christine Wiig's cat butthole.
Now, if you renounce your wish, can you wish again?
I don't know. They didn't explain any of that. There's lots of unanswered questions.
What I thought maybe
but what I was talking about is like Kristen Wiig turns into this whole like cat body thing with the human face with some lines on it, like fucking terrible CGI design. It's trash.
She looked like
I mean, it looked like
what's the fucking Thundercat? That's what she looked like. She looked like a goddamn Thundercat. Thundercats, ho!
Yeah, because she's got like a part cat body and then like part human body, and like the face is like put the cat nose on or something.
I
like,
remember
do something.
Super Friends, and it was just a woman in a cat suit.
Yeah, this is like
yeah,
furry porn basically.
Yeah, basically that's the people like the general audience are gonna like that. But that was just a terrible design, and after they'd already shown that she was powerful, so she wanted to become even more monstrous. Like, and that goes contradicting to what her character does, because once she became hot and felt powerful and empowered, she had confidence in shit that she didn't have before. So then, like, why would she want to be a beast that no one would want to touch?
It seems that Hollywood seems to think that women are really into, like, bestiality and necrophilia, judging by, I don't know, Twilight, The Shape of Water.
Didn't she say she wanted to be an apex predator, but wasn't she already an apex predator as a human?
Well,
like as a cat, an apex?
Let's not overthink this movie, Nick. Okay. I'm just saying, it's like, yeah, it's a Wonder Woman. Like, Wonder Woman's costume's cool. Some of the effects are cool, but it just, the story is not very interesting. And then everyone's like talking about this credit scene. Oh, the post-credit scene's really cool, or the mid-credit scene or whatever.
Yeah, with Linda Carter.
Yeah, Linda Carter shows up and like fucking winks at you and says like, "Oh, I've been doing this for forever." Like,
I don't give a fuck.
Okay, are you bringing her into the fucking movie universe now? Was it old Diane, or what the fuck are you doing?
Is that supposed to be?
And all I thought was like, Jesus Christ, how much fucking plastic surgery have you fucking had? You look like you haven't aged a day. So either they de-aged you, or you've had several fucking facelifts and Botox injections.
Maybe they're foreshadowing the multiple universes that they're gonna do.
Fuck, I don't know. They can do whatever they want, but I don't know. It just wasn't a compelling movie to me.
Yeah, no, I
can tell you, I'm glad I didn't pay to see this in theaters. And what made this fucking movie even worse was like the delay. It got delayed like a year the first time, and then obviously with COVID, it got delayed again. So you're just like, fuck. And then the whole reason I watched this movie was because Yes Have Some was talking about like, you know, Patty Jenkins is supposed to direct the next Star Wars feature-length, Rogue Squadron. So, like, how do you feel about that? And I gotta tell you, I'm a little fucking worried.
I saw an article about
after seeing this.
Kathleen Kennedy's thoughts on her after Wonder Woman 84, but I didn't read it because I didn't think about that she was directing Rogue Squadron.
And I'm not saying she's a bad director, right? I don't know necessarily who wrote those and did that, right? Because you also have an editor in there, so you're directing and you're working with other people.
But also, a movie of this scale there's bound to be more than just your hands on it. But
Patty Jenkins wrote and directed the second one, where she only directed the first one.
Oh, she wrote this one too?
Or at least co-wrote. So, if she doesn't have a writing credit in Rogue Squadron, which I think she does, because it seems kind of like, oh, my dad was in the Air Force, or whatever she's talking about.
Well, maybe if she's intelligent on that piece, but what I start looking back on now is like the fireworks scene of the plane in 84, and like some of the flying sequences from the original Wonder Woman were okay, but I don't see anything in there compelling enough for me to say like, oh, who should do a whole movie about flying?
Get the guy who's directing the Mission Impossible movies right now that's doing the new Top Gun Maverick to do it.
Fuck yeah.
Get that guy.
You need somebody with that kind of experience, right?
Yeah.
So
I hate to say replace this movie director that's a woman with a man, because that seems really dumb, but
No, that's not the point of this.
I just mean somebody.
Okay, so HBO Max this month added Batman animated series, Batman Beyond, a whole bunch of Batman animated movies. Watch those instead.
And they also said that they're going to be developing a new Batman series of some sort that's in that universe.
I hope Affleck gets to do something solo, but I don't know if he ever will. His own movie.
I think they should have already done that, and the times changed. It's past now, because it's like it has the same thing as this. Even if this was going to be amazing, I would still be bummed out and be like, I don't really want to watch it that bad because it's connected to the universe that is fucking garbage.
The other problem with this movie for me was, is this time travel like after the Justice League thing? Does she wind up back in 84 doing something different, or is this supposed to take place before the Justice League movie? Because if it does, like, how has no one heard of her, right? When Batman's trying to figure out who the fuck this lady is, and he's researching all these people in Batman versus Superman, what the fuck's going on here, right? So you're going to say that there's all these sightings. There have been much more rumor and speculation there for Batman versus Superman.
Well, they made a show of her, showing her destroying the security cameras at the mall. But yeah, there was still a news report of... Well, it was on the news. Some woman stopped the criminals.
Yeah, there's all that speculation there, right? Cheetah wanted to be Wonder Woman because she knew who she was.
And
so there's just a lot of things there. It's like, how do you have a character that's supposed to be developing this way that you don't feel like she developed at all to be the character she became in a future later dated movie, right? It's just bizarre to me. And I'm not sure if these follow loosely any comic storylines at all or not, right? I don't read a lot of DC anyway, let alone Wonder Woman, but if you know more about any of that, let me know. Like, were any of these based off of actual comic threads or stories from her? But I just had to say that I didn't really care for the movie. Kind of pissed me off. So.
Yeah,
I just had to get that off my chest. We watched.
I can't
it
say
today.
I was disappointed because I knew what to expect, but hey,
yes. So that's this episode of the podcast. So we'll be back next week with some special guests: Ryan Dole, Craig Goldberg. We'll be talking some Shadows of the Empire toy line stuff. You know what I mean?
Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, the Frog.
Shut this off. Shut these all off.